everyone, Sarah Ramos here from the Pottery Corner. I'm going to do a slightly different style of video today. I'm going to take a leaf out of my Pottery Sisters book, Monique at the Pottery on Bonaire. I'll put a link across to her channel. I've been really enjoying her vlogging where she just kind of lets the camera follow her during the day doing different bits and pieces. So obviously at the moment the students are not here, so I have my lovely studio all to myself, which is a very rare occurrence. So for the whole of August I've basically got the studio to myself. So I've been working on a few bits and pieces. It's quite nice to have the time to do that. And the first thing that I'm going to have a little go at is I've bought 3 different types of black clay. One of them is a black porcelain and the other 2 are samples of black clay, because I thought I'd have a little go at throwing with those. So I'm going to do a little bit of throwing in a minute and I'll take you along with me there. I have to do a video on underglaze pencils. So I've been sent these underglaze pencils by a company called Plaster, and I need to do a tutorial video on underglaze pencils, so that will be interesting. I have made some house moulds. I spent a little bit of time a week or so ago doing some plaster moulds, and if you've watched my channel before, there are videos on how to make plaster moulds and how to cast with casting slip. So I've got those to do. I actually have got I have got the slip already in, but it's taking a long time to dry and I can't get it out, so I'll take you along on that journey as well. Okay, so we're just going to have a little sort of mashup of video today, slightly different to what normally comes from the channel. So let me know in the comments what you think, and we'll see how we go. I'm off to sort this clay out ready for the wheel. So this first black clay that I'm going to have a go with is called Vulcan Black Fine Clay. It's a stoneware. This has come from Bath Potters in England. They have a website, actually a very good company. They get their products out really quickly, and that is the label. So I've just ordered a kilogram block just to have a little play with and see what it throws like. So I'm going to try and keep the pieces that I throw separate from each other so that I can make sure I know which clay did what. The other piece is called Black Extra Smooth, Professional Black Extra Smooth. So that one again is a stoneware, fires to 1260 as its highest temperature, and the reference number is PF680, and again comes from Bath Potters. Slightly different colour you'll notice from the clay body colour, so that'll be interesting. And the final one is actually a black porcelain. Now I do throw with porcelain, but as we all know, it's a tricky little devil. So this is called Onyx Black Porcelain, and it's a pot clays product. So presumably you could buy it directly from Pot Clays, but this actually did come from Bath Potters. Now, just for interest's sake, I always put the price that I've paid, including the postage of things that I buy. So this particular kilo of clay cost me £5.57. This one cost £5.47, and the bag of 5 kilos, so this is a 5 kilo bag of the Onyx Black Porcelain, was £25.53. Expensive, so it'll be interesting to see what we think of that. Before we start, I'm going to have some coffee out of my beautiful Monique mug, which is the mug I use for my very first cup of coffee in the studio every day. So thank you, Monique. And she's in the process of making me a new Sgraffito mug with a little goat design on it. So I'm looking forward to receiving that. So cheers. So we're going to start off with the Vulcan and see where we get to. I have a feeling this is going to get very messy with this black clay, but we'll give it a go and see what we think. So I'm going to use the whole kilo because I can't make a lot with anything smaller than that. So I'm just going to push it into a round. I'm not going to bother to wedge it. I'm assuming it's come straight out of a bag, so it shouldn't need wedging. Right then, let's give this a go. Well, first impressions, it's quite smooth. There's not much grog in it, which is good when you're throwing. It's a bit off-putting, it makes it look like you're throwing with chocolate. I would say that this piece of clay is probably a little bit stiffer than I would normally throw at. So obviously it's being in a 1 kilo block, it's dried out a little bit more than I would usually throw it at, but it's not too bad. As I say, it has the look of Nutella about it, don't you think? Right, okay, so I'm just going to open this up into a bowl. I'm going to lift it up into a cylinder first, which is the way that I always do a bowl. So I'm just going to find the centre and put my V-shaped hole in for those of my students who are watching. Step 2 of the throwing mantra. Right, I'm just going to test that with a pin. On my normal white stoneware, I don't tend to bother to do this because I can judge where it is, but for some unknown reason, I feel quite so confident with this. So let's just have a... So I've got about 1 centimetre, which actually I'm not too unhappy about, because if I want to put a proper foot ring on it, then I will leave it at that depth so that I've got some trimming space. So now I'm just going to open out, give myself a proper base. I pull it out at about 3 o'clock on the wheel. I know some people pull it down towards 6 o'clock, but for me I like to open out to 3 o'clock, so I'm just going to make sure that I've got a nice flat start of a base there. I think I want to make a fairly flared bowl, so I don't want the base to be too wide on the finished article, so I'm just making sure that I've got a nice base in the base there. Okay, I must say actually this clay's quite nice to throw with, so first impressions are pretty good, I would say, although I'll tell you when I clean up the studio with this lovely black sludge everywhere. Okay, so I'm going to pull up my cylinder, and I do use a throwing sponge to do that. I just find it's easier to do and saves my fingers. Just do that rim again, so I'm just going to come back up to that same point, just losing the lubricant on the inside there. I don't want to make it too thin at this point because I am going to use a bowl rib in a minute, so I don't want to make it too thin because the bowl rib will do that job for me. So I'm just going to make sure that I don't leave loads of water inside. So now, because I'm going to use a bowl rib in a minute, I'm going to tidy up this foot area first before I go very much further. And to take off a little bit of this weight down here. I don't need all of that. And in fact, that's still quite wide at the base there, so I think I might just do another pull here, then I'm right down on that board. I just wanted to bring up some of the weight so that I can use that in the actual bowl's capacity. Again, I'm not going to make it too thin. I don't want it to go too thin on me. Alright, let's see what we've got there now. That's much better. I'm not putting a lot of pressure on now, I'm just bringing it up into an even wall. Okay, so I'm just going to take that flange off, skirt off, whatever you want to call it, and make my life easier when I come to do the trimming. I don't need it there, so I'm just going to take it off. I'm using a Hartley and Noble bat system for wheel without pinheads, so it goes over the wheel. It's got a chamois underneath it, so that's what I'm using on the wheel. So I'm just going to tidy up the outside of this pot now, because I don't want to touch the outside after I have finished. So I'm just going to take off all the slurry with a rib, and again, it'll be better not to have it on there when I come to do trimming. So that's made that into a nice even texture. I've got my chamois leather, piece of chamois leather ready for when I need to do the rim. Now this is my bowl rib. So this came from, can't remember his name, but I'll put it up on the screen when I look it up. He does have a YouTube channel, although he hasn't actually been posting as much recently. And it came from America along with his trimming tools. So yes, I do use this a lot. I have actually made myself some porcelain versions and glazed them, and they do work just as well with this same sort of domed profile on. But I always use the wooden one just because I actually find it easy. Obviously it's less heavy. So I'm going to use this bowl rib just to pull out this bowl. If you've not seen this before, it really has got to be the easiest way. So I'm going to drop the bowl rib down into the centre of the bowl. The wheel is not spinning too fast, and I'm just going to move it across to 3 o'clock inside and start very gently rotating the bowl rib as I come up the inside of the bowl. There is water in the bottom here, so I do have lubrication. And then this is going to go egg shape, which is quite startling for beginner potters. And I'm just, as you can see, just twisting as I come out of the top of the bowl. So the only part of that that's touched the inside of the bowl is the bit that's now got the slip on, which is about a quarter segment. So I'm just going to re-lubricate the side here, and I'm going to go in. And as I'm doing this, I'm trying to make the bottom of the bowl shaped, so that it is actually a curve inside rather than flat and aside. And I do that as well with the bowl rib by just pushing it along the floor and then holding it on that bottom corner section to make it into a round. And then I'm just pushing out again as I come up, and again it'll go frighteningly egg-shaped there, and then I'm just going to very gently continue the turn as it comes up and out of the top of the pot. And again, that's the only bit that's got the slip on it. So that sort of quarter section there. And I hope you can see how much wider this bowl is now. So I've got one more go at that. Another reason for leaving that foot a bit thicker than I would normally, because I knew I was going to use the bowl rib, so I'm pushing down to get that bowl indent into the base. Right, let's see what we've got. So that's actually a nice bowl profile in the centre of there. Not too worried about what the outside looks like, because obviously I can trim that, but I do want to just make that slightly wider, I think. So I'm just going to just give the wall a little push and just get that out a bit wider if I can. It's a fine line when you're using a bowl rib as to how far you can push it, but I just think there's a little bit more in there. So this is only 1 kilo of clay. Oh, look at this, that's interesting. And you all have noticed that that has actually completely gone. So I have kept that fairly wet inside. And this naughty black clay, I'm sure that you can see that. So naughty black clay has actually dipped there. Can you see? It's actually, if I do it from there, it has actually collapsed on me, and I have these very large cracks in it. So naughty black clay, not a good start. I'll re-wedge it and then rethrow it later on. Right, so I'm ready to go again, this time with the professional black extra smooth, which is this one. Sissy's joined me in the studio. Right, let's see how this one goes. This one I can already feel oh, nasty. Nasty, nasty, nasty. I don't know whether you can see that on the camera, but this is not a clay that I would throw with, despite its it says on the website that it can be thrown. Yeah, it can be thrown by people who don't want any fingerprints left, because let me tell you, you're not going to have any fingerprints left after that. That's full of grog, nasty, very sandy. I shall not be throwing with this again. Yucky, yucky, yuck. Hurting my hands. It doesn't want to centre. God blimey, if I was doing a proper test on this, I would say at this point, before I've even shaped it, that I would not be throwing with this again, because it is absolutely killing my hands already, and I've only just got it centred. So yeah, nasty. Nasty, nasty, nasty. Anyway, we will continue, see where we get to. But save yourself the problem of shredding your hands. Don't bother with this clay. Right. What amazes me is the description. Extra smooth. Black, extra smooth. Nothing extra smooth about that, family, I can tell you. That's nasty. I'd hate to use the one that wasn't extra smooth. I'm not sure I even got that perfectly centred, and if I didn't, that's because it's hurting my fingers. Right, let's try and get the wall up and see what happens with this. The hand that's got the sponge on is alright, but the one on the inside, I'm sure you must be able to see how heavily grogged that is. How on earth they're calling that an extra smooth, I have no idea. That is bonkers. I'm actually not going to do any more on there. I'm just going to take off this skirt. That'll do. Right, okay, so I'm gonna go in with my bowl rib and we'll see where we get to. As you can see, this is still quite a cylinder, but actually the bowl rib will go in and start the process of bringing this out. So you can actually work from a cylinder into a bowl. Here, how much grog there is in there, actually on the rib itself. Some of that water so we don't get the same problem as last time. Okay, so I'm practically dry in there now. I do need lots of lubrication to use the bowl rib, so I do not want it to be dry in there. Right, it's almost like so much grog, it's like sandpaper. Right, in view of what happened with the last one, I think I might just stop that one there. I'm just going to use the chamois on the rim just to get that off of there. It may have thrown a bowl, but I have to say that that was a nasty throw. What I do. Quite a nice bowl profile on the inside. Very, very, very heavily grogged clay, which I hope you can see, and nasty to throw with. Definitely will not be using that again. Right, so I've done a proper clean down, as you can see, and I've portioned up the black porcelain, which feels absolutely scrummy after that last clay. Right, so let's see how we go with this one. It's quite soft, this clay, so I'm sure that I might have some problems with it being too soft, but let's have a go. Oh, it's like butter. Lovely. After that last clay nearly ripped my hands to shreds. That is gorgeous, gorgeous. But as we all know, porcelain can be a little tinker on the wheel and needs more of a lighter touch than usual stoneware. So these are 550 gram balls that I'm using here. I have weighed them because I thought I would make some mugs. The other thing to say about porcelain is how much it shrinks. So if you are throwing or indeed making in any way with porcelain, the shrinkage rate is enormous. I mean, they say it's about sort of 18%. I personally would disagree with that. I think it's over a quarter. So yes, I am going to make these a lot bigger than I would normally make my mugs, because I know that it's gonna shrink. Let's just check the depth. I don't use much depth on the bottom of my mugs. So that is fine. So I'm happy with that. So I'm just going to extra specially compress the base because it is porcelain, because it's naughty, and make sure that that pinhole doesn't resurrect itself when I've finished throwing and it So I'm trying to keep this quite tight. And use the slip on my hands rather than adding too much in the way of water. Okay, so I'm going to use my sponge but use it with hardly any water in. Right, so I'm just going to collar that in a little bit. Because as it's porcelain, it's wanting to come out. It's so elastic, porcelain, that it will go where you want it to, but you just have to stop it from going out too far. Consciously taking the water out as I go because I don't want it sitting in water. I do want these fairly straight-sided because I'm going to put some decoration on here. So I'm just using the wooden throwing tool. Well, lovely to throw because it is porcelain, obviously, but quite naughty. There's a little bit to do in the trimming, but I'm generally quite happy with that. 5 more the same, or closely resembling the same. So there you are. It's a big, looks like a very big mug at the moment, but as I say, by the time this comes out, it's going to have shrunk by a considerable amount, so it won't be such a big mug when it's actually done. Hi everybody, this is now Saturday morning. Been a bit of a funny, hectic old week in the life of Sarah Amos the Potter. As is like most people and most things, you get distracted with ageing parents. So yes, been distracted by ageing parents this week. So I've sort of done quite a lot of filming, and I've been doing sort of bits and pieces in between. So I thought that I would just share with you some of the stuff that's ongoing. And I've packed a biscuit kiln, so there's a couple of things in there I'd like you to have a look at. So I'm just going to lift the lid. I haven't turned it on yet. So I'm just going to lift the lid and let you have a look at it. So first off, this is the, and excuse the handheld because you're going to have a little bit more wobbling than perhaps would be normal from my videos. So this is the rather nasty textured coarser clay bowl that I threw in the previous bit on the video. You'll see that at the beginning. Nasty, I would say it was very nasty to throw with, and it's quite coarse, which I hope you can kind of pick up. But I've turned this bowl and put a sort of a foot ring on. I've tried not to make it too perfect because actually I think I'm probably going to leave it with this sort of slightly rough texture without it being glazed, but I'll glaze it on the inside. But what I have done on the foot ring is where it is going to sit on a surface, I have rubbed it with a polished stone, and I'll just show you. I have a collection of polished stones. These just came off of Amazon or eBay, one of the two. And I really like them because they have different surfaces. So this one, as you can see, has got a lovely flat surface across the top. So it burnishes basically when it's on the wheel and I'm turning. I just burnish the parts that I want not to have this nasty sandy surface. So I've done that on this section here and on the bottom section where it's actually going to sit on a surface so that it doesn't scratch. And as you can see, I've popped my maker's mark on. The other thing that we were working on was using the black porcelain to throw with. And I haven't trimmed these mugs yet. I have to say that the black porcelain was pretty tricky, as I kind of thought it would be. But I'm just waiting to trim the bottoms on these. A couple of very simple mugs. This one I actually started to lose the rim on, so we'll see whether we can actually square that up, but we'll see. But if they come out, then I'll be putting handles on those, so those are ready to trim. I'm keeping them moist The black clay is actually drying very quickly, so I'm just going to give them a little bit of a spray. I do this quite a lot by just using a simple spray bottle, just because when they're wrapped in plastic, as you know, these plastic bags have holes in so that people don't suffocate themselves, which doesn't help the potters really, because we don't really want the holes in the bags. So that's in there, and then in this bag, I'm going to take you over here. On a board I was talking to you about the house moulds that I'd made, the slip house moulds. So this this is the first pull out of the slip house mould. Yes, I've got some work to do on this, obviously, because I want to cut some windows in, so that the whole point is that you put a candle underneath and make yourself a little house. I won't say that it was very easy to get it out of the mould, so we'll see how it goes. I mean, I obviously made the original mould, the original house solid, and then I've cast using plaster of Paris to make my mould. As in, that mould is this plaster mould is this particular plaster mould. There we go. So that mould makes this house, and I've got to, as I say, put some windows in so that I'm going to have a go at cutting and seeing where we get to. This one, we lost a little bit of the depth of the house on this one, but we did get it out. And interestingly, I put a little bit of shaping detail on the roof just to indicate tiles, and that has actually come out, so I was quite pleased about that. So they are work in progress. These two mugs I have trimmed, and I've just put a very simple base on them, one of which has got my stamp on and one of which hasn't. So I've got to put my Maker's Mark onto the other mug. And then I've done, they're not finished, I've done some fluting on them, which actually I took from Vaughan Smith. So if you haven't seen his YouTube videos, I have to say that Vaughan Smith's videos are now my Saturday morning guilty pleasure. So he uses a simple potato peeler, sideways potato peeler with a blade on it, to do the fluting. So I've basically, when I've turned it, I've left myself a shelf, if you like, so that I could tell where I wanted the fluting to stop here on this section here. I need to give these a scrubby to even them out a little bit, and obviously I've got to put handles on them, but actually I'm really pleased with how they're looking, so it'll be interesting to see how the glaze reacts with that surface. So thank you for that tip, Vaughan. It's always nice to learn from other YouTubers. And that's the other one of those, which again, I've got to do a little bit of tidying up on them. But they're coming on, work in progress, as we say. And if I leave that on there, it will remind me not to forget to do the Maker's Mark. So we're down in the kiln room, where you've seen me often, hopefully, doing my kiln opening videos. There's not much left on the shelves. There's a little bit of glazing to do. This is students' work on the shelves here, but that is the last of the glazing needing to be done for the summer. And I'm just, as I say, in the process of packing a biscuit kiln. That is a student's piece in there. That is, I'm not sure you can see it, it's an acorn. It's got a cap on the bottom of it. And these are my newest design. These are luminaires. So I've been playing with these. I've done 3. So the transfer along the bottom, this is the London skyline, as you can see. It's got Big Ben and Westminster and the London Eye. And these transfers come from Ceramica, which is a company that I use, as well as Ellen Transfers, for my underglaze transfers. And I've just made a simple shape, like a shield shape almost, with sides, and on the sides I have actually put some carving, because what I'm hoping will happen is when the candle is in the back here, standing on this shelf, the light will shine through the front and also up the wall or whatever it's on, because it'll come out of the carving actually on the shoulders. And I have put on the back a little brace for two reasons really. So I've just put the brace on there. I mean, you could hang it if you wanted to, but obviously you wouldn't be able to put a candle in it, but you could put a permanent light bulb in it and use it as a lamp, and then use that to hang it onto the wall. But I put the brace on basically to stop it warping. I was a bit worried that it might warp. And then I've simply cut a design in of stars and sort of, you know, galaxy type night sky. So those are the latest things that I've been working on. And there's London, and then there's Paris, which is, I think, this one. So this one is Paris with the Eiffel Tower and a Parisian scene. And then the last one is New York, which is actually one of my favourite places in the world. So that one is New York. It's got the Chrysler Building and the Empire State Building and what have you. So, and it's also got little cabs on it, little New York cabs. I don't know if you can see that. So yeah, so I'm quite looking forward to seeing how they come out. So in terms of this week's video, that's your lot. It's a bit of a mishmash. I'm going to put at the end some shots of our holiday. We've been away recently down to Dorset, which is a couple of counties across from us, and it's just beautiful down there, and we had a little bit of time at the seaside, so I thought I'd stick a couple of little clips of us mucking about at the seaside. So I hope you enjoy those, and I'll see you all. Before I go, actually comment, let me know what you think. What do you think of this style of videoing? Is it better than the other? I'm going to do a little bit more tutorial type stuff if I can, just sort of mucking about with it really and having a go. So let me know in the comments. Very good to see you all, very good to have you with me, and I'll see you all on the next one. Bye for now. Going up.